Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Todd Clint's SharePoint Podcast, episode 344, recorded live Monday, July 10th, 2017. I am your host, Todd Clint, and once again, because of community service activities and bad karma and all kinds of things, I'm forced to hang out with this guy, Shane Young. Don't butt yourself, Shane.
Hello, and aren't you glad that I'm here and Todd is, passing the mic to me because it makes your lives better. I'm here to make your life better, and let's just face it, Todd's a bad person, so we're just going to power through the show and have a good time.
Yeah, and it's funny about that. So I did this podcast by myself for 7 years, something like that. And for many of those years, Lori didn't even help out. It was just me, and I was like the guy with the bass drum on my back and the cymbal, and I was doing it all, and it was okay. It was, there were many things to make fun of about it, but it got by. So last week, I was gone 2 weeks on vacation in the Netherlands, all that, and then last week was July 3rd. Lori was on vacation, wasn't sure if she's going to be able to be around or not, but she was going to try. And then you didn't know if you're going to be able to be around or not. So it shows up Monday afternoon, and it's just me. And I'm like, I'm not doing this thing by myself. We're scratching this thing. So I've become lazier in my old age.
Yeah, what I'm going to point out, since I've joined the show, there's a record number of subscribers and weekly viewers since I've joined the show. It's numbers. I can't help it.
It's science. That's just science. You can't argue with science.
All right.
So for production, we're all caught up because, I knocked out 3 in 2 days when I got back from vacation and all that. And then I don't know, we've recorded another one since. So we're in good shape.
Well, you'll be behind here in about 20, 30 minutes. So
behind for probably a week, maybe more, because I got a good excuse for tomorrow, and then Wednesday nobody does anything on Wednesdays, and But let's get right into the topics. You and I are both busy guys. We've got places to go, peoples to see, lemonade to
Chick-fil-A to eat.
Chick-fil-A to eat. You can also have lemonade to drink. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So the big news: July 1st came and went, and every July 1st I get a little nervous because that is the day that my MVP renews or doesn't. And all the sacrificing, all the bribing, all of the palm greasing worked. I was renewed, and this is 12 years and running, I believe, if I do my math right. So
congratulations.
Thank you. And it was weird, so you can attest to this, and I think we're going to cover this in a minute. The MVP program has changed a bunch in the last couple of years, and they've changed like how they decide who gets in. They've changed what the categories are, so you can't just be a SharePoint person and get in anymore. And I never take it for granted. Like, I've always thought me being in the MVP program was a huge mistake that somebody would notice and then retroactively remove. Always something I'm worried about. But even more so this time, I was worried about how things would shake down. And the MVP program, they're very considerate, and if you're going to be cycled out, they let you know like a week ahead of time. Your lead calls you and breaks you the news and all that. So I saw in some back channels, people were like, hey, I'm not going to get renewed this year. Thanks, everybody. Here's my email address. I saw a few of those. Like, if my phone would ring, I wouldn't answer it, and made it through that week and didn't get the bad news. But I never took it for granted. I never can. And this year was a little more scary, but it all worked out. So
this year is very confusing, right? Most people don't have to put up with it, but I was kind of renewed. I think what happened essentially, so I was renewed for my 12th year, 13th year, I forget, a lot of years.
Yep.
So I guess it'd be 12 because you just got 12.
So yours would be 13 in October.
Yeah. So last October I got renewed for 12. Yay. Mm-hmm. And then I got notified that I was renewed again, but not really renewed in July. I think they're going to skip this October. So really, I got like a year and a half out of my one, so it'll not be until next July that I have to be nervous again. So I get to skip being nervous this October.
Yeah, and what they did, so for folks who weren't aware, the MVP program awarded the MVP award on the beginning of each quarter. So January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st. Like 2 years ago when they started juggling all this around because of the way they did the reporting, I got a freebie like 2 years ago because they shifted some stuff. But then all the people who got a freebie before didn't get one, and now all the other people did as they caught back up to that. So I think they've got all of us on January and July now, I think, which is great because I always felt bad for those April 1st awardees because it's April Fool's Day.
Yeah. But it's kind of weird, right? Because when I got it way back in 13 almost years ago. They were on the 2 cycles, but it was April and October. So they've kind of, then they went to the 4, and now they went to the 2. But the other 2, change for the sake of change, maybe?
I don't know. It sort of makes sense with Microsoft's fiscal year being July 1st. I don't know. Anyway, I'm in, so you're all stuck with me for another year.
We're going to throw you off the show if you didn't get recruited or if you didn't get renewed.
Probably so. But in sadder news, I got an email a couple of weeks ago that longtime listener of the show, Bruce Alcock, he has retired. Bruce has been following the show and my blog and pestering me at conferences for, my God, 10 years. I can't even begin to remember. I've spoken at his user group in Oklahoma City a couple of times. He is the guy that sends me all the pictures of mules. I've learned more about mules from Bruce than I have ever, than most people probably forgotten. But he's stepping away from the SharePoint gig, so I'm probably not going to be running into him anymore. So I wanted to give him a shout out and a thanks for being a faithful podcast sufferer for all these years.
Well, Bruce, happy trails. Hopefully you find something more entertaining to watch in your retirement than us.
Something more fulfilling. I'm positive of it. So it's been a couple of weeks since we've done the show, and there's a bunch of stuff that came up. And then Microsoft's Inspire conferences this week, what used to be known as the Worldwide Partner Expo, is now called Inspire. So some stuff came out today about that. I don't know if we'll hit that much today just because we haven't had a chance to research it. And Gesundheit. For those of you on the audio-only version, Shane just did that thing where he was going to sneeze and he's panicking, trying to hit mute before it happens.
It gets dicey, right? Because if I untense my muscles, then I'm going to sneeze, but I've got to press the button to untense it. It's awkward.
But the struggle's real. Yep.
No sneeze in the camera or in the microphone. So
no, I'd have taken it out in post. We'd have fixed that. So we're probably not going to cover much of the Inspire stuff just because we haven't had a chance to digest it yet. But we'll hit that. We'll hit that next week. But one of the things that did happen is last week, I think on the 7th, so that would have been Friday or something. Jeff Teeper, y'all know Jeff Teeper. He's kind of the godfather of SharePoint. He's kind of a big deal at Microsoft. Big deal for all of us SharePoint folks. He took over the SharePoint Twitter handle last week and kind of did like an Ask Me Anything sort of deal. I didn't partake in those. I have a tough time following those, like the Reddit AMAs and all that. My mind doesn't work correctly for those kind of things. But Erica, a friend of ours, and I'm afraid to mispronounce her last name. Anyway, Erica, Toelle, how embarrassing for me. I should have practiced this. Has a great blog post on the top 10 takeaways from the Teeper takeover, and her use of alliteration is top notch. So I'm not going to go through all 10 of them because there's a bunch of them that I just are not very exciting, but a few of them came out that I did want to mention. One of them is that Microsoft Flow is the official replacement for workflows. And I think we all saw that coming. I mean, I don't think there's any new news there, but it is good to hear somebody in Jeff Teeper's position repeat that, because we've been Microsoft folks long enough to know that this is the next big thing, and then all of a sudden we don't hear anything else about it. So it's good to keep hearing the same message. Shane, you look like you're not in favor of that.
I'm not against it. I'm not buying it. I just don't believe him still, right? It might be. I mean, I don't doubt that it's a true statement today, July 10th, 2017. But, when we get to that point in this time where they have to remove workflow from SharePoint and it's just Flow, will it still be the case? I don't know. I struggle with this, right? Because I did some research around Flow and then Power Apps and then Microsoft Forms, which has nothing to do with actual forms. And, there's some overlap. There's this touching and doing, and I might at some point someone's going to say, you know what? All three of those products kind of do a little of the same of everything. Let's make one product. And so I just don't believe that what we call Microsoft Flow today is going to be this be-all, end-all replacement for SharePoint workflows in its current iteration. I could be wrong, but I don't believe it.
Yeah, and Microsoft has struggled with that. I agree with you, and that's why I said it's good to hear them keep saying it, because that means it hasn't just disappeared in the background and we haven't heard about it. Yeah. Microsoft has struggled with workflows for SharePoint. 2010 was kind of the halcyon days for workflow because it was all built into SharePoint. It was built for SharePoint, by SharePoint. 2013, we saw them getting pulled out which made sense at the time. We're like, oh, we got these people that just do workflow and they're going to do workflow. And you're like, that's brilliant. Of course, that makes perfect sense. Until it didn't, until we realized how bad everything was. So we've seen the scenario that you mentioned play out a bunch of times, and we'll see how that actually works.
Yeah, I mean, I hope, I don't know. I guess the other problem is I've done enough work with Laura Rogers, right, with her IW Mentor. I've done enough of her workflows, like where you get in there and it's 400 steps to modify a list value based on the wind conditions and, whether or not, I had Chick-fil-A for dinner or not. And Flow's not there either, right? That's the other problem is Flow's got a long way to being able to really do some of the stuff that she does with the tool today.
Yeah. So that was one of them. Another one that we liked to hear, and again, another one of those things we like to hear as often as we can, is Teeper reiterated that there would be another on-prem version of SharePoint Server. SharePoint is not dead. SharePoint Server is not dead. There will be another on-prem version. So he reiterated that and reiterated that. So that's good.
Yeah, I saw several people ask him that question. He kept saying yes. But at the same time, my question would have been, well, no one's using SharePoint 2016, so why would you make SharePoint 2019?
Yeah, good question. I don't know, but they've committed to it. So
yeah.
That's as far as we know. And then finally, one of the things that he mentioned was that the modern sites and modern lists and libraries will not come down to SharePoint 2016 in a feature pack, but they will be part of the next on-prem version. So that gives me some idea as to how much plumbing in the background they required and how much plumbing they're doing for the next version.
And you know what? I wonder if part of that is also maybe an indicator. So 16, as far as we can tell, right, has been kind of a bust. Not that there's anything wrong with it, just no one's really kind of moved to it and adopted it. Are they taking features like that and saying, all right, we're going to rebrand it, and maybe instead of being on a 3-year cycle, we're going to jump to a 18-month or a 2-year cycle, all right, quickly iterate 16 out just to try and get a version that people will migrate to?
That's a good question, and we've seen that happen before.
Yeah.
Products get whole new names. They're like, this product is a lot like the last version. I don't know. And I think part of that is SharePoint 2016's lackluster adoption, I think, is the result of two very good things for Microsoft. Number one, SharePoint 2013 was rock solid and people loved it.
Yep.
And number two, Office 365 is not bad anymore. Earlier today, Shane and I were talking about some Office 365 stuff, and we're like, oh, we need to account for the fact that you can't do this because you haven't been able to do this for 10 years. Oh, crap, they fixed that. You can do that now. It's just that story gets told over and over, and that's, I think, part of the reason that 2016 is just not been adopted as much.
Yeah, as much as it pains me to say, every time I use SharePoint Online, I'm like, this works. It does what I need to do. I don't know what to complain about.
Yeah. Dave Aykroyd in the chat room brings up an interesting point that they didn't use SharePoint 2016 because there wasn't a free version. There wasn't a foundation version. And and Daniel Glenn, as much as it pains me, brought up another good reason, is that 2016 just wasn't that big of an improvement, a big step over 2013. And that's absolutely true. And I've told this story before. When Shane and I were writing our last admin class, we wanted to make sure we had every topic screenshots for 2013 and 2016 so we could cater it to our audience. And there were a bunch of times when I would look at a screenshot and I couldn't tell if it was 2013 or 2016. I'd have to remind myself, okay, in 2016 the name is above the thing. In 2013 the welcome, Todd is on the same line as okay. They're not that different. So
yeah. And I guess that's the interesting thing, right? Because for us admin nerds, right, there are some cool architectural things in 2016, right? Like MinRoll and things like that. But for the end user, they're like, this is the same stuff, different day.
They don't care. Yeah.
No.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
Yeah, but definitely people should check out that blog post. It was just good to hear, Teeper say some of those things, and makes you feel a little better, or makes you feel worse, depending on how you feel about Flow.
Exactly. So you wrote a Petri article a couple of weeks ago, and you made sure that we talked about it here. I kept deleting it. You kept adding it back into the notes. So you touched the notes last, so it's in there. Let's hear about it.
Yeah. So wrote a nice little article getting started with Power BI and SharePoint Online. So it's the same as that the video that I'd done before, but found out some people like to read, some people like to listen, some people just like to stare at me because I'm beautiful.
That is not, nobody likes that. No. Nobody.
So the Power BI one, though, I'm still struggling with that topic from the standpoint that, I've enjoyed the Power BI and the SharePoint Online stuff, but the adoption of what I've seen, I can't get enough eyeballs to look at the content to justify making more content in that space. I don't know if I'm just not scratching the right itch or if Power BI is just not really being used yet. I don't know. So anybody has any feedback, I'd love to hear on, because I'd love to make more of that content, but if 14 people were going to watch it and Todd's mom was 6 and my mom was 8, really no reason to make the videos.
Yeah, it's a tough sell. I mean, my mom's a, salt of the earth, but yeah. Well, it's good they got the article. That's out there. And then you got a thing here about another video, a PowerShell video.
Yep. So we did on Friday, PowerShell string manipulation, just one of those core skill sets. You were kind enough to help me, so I appreciate that. It was, just a lot of little things, and just really trying to put them in a context, right? We all know you can do a replace on a string, but do you know about substring, and do you know about trim end and trim start, and just trying to kind of hit all of those pieces, because like when we write these really automated solutions, like we'll probably talk about here in a minute, you got to be able to use all of those tools to be able to take crap A and transform it to make it the way parameter B wants to see it.
Yeah, and that's so neither Shane or I are developers, nor do we want to be. But as we talk about it, PowerShell is super close to being developer-ish, especially once we start doing the things that you're doing here that we're going to talk about in the next segment. And so it's all these problems that you and I have never had to worry about. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts about casting and all these different things. And it gets tricky. And so we, Shane and I get on these Skype sessions and we're just thinking out loud, trying to figure out, this thing looks like it should work and it should do this thing. Why does this not work? And just trying things and figuring it out. And so it's good that, Shane's kind of putting these videos together. And the string one was fun because we were kicking back and looking at all the things that we knew about strings and trying to figure out which ones made sense in the video and which ones were us just showing off that we'd actually figured something out. So that was good stuff. So, give Shane some feedback in the video, and that's on his YouTube channel, youtube.com/ShaneYoungCloud.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, we should take some of our PowerShell geniuses, right? We had the problem with the trim end and slashes being in there, and we just gave up. We switched from using trim end to replace because apparently somehow with the what was it, the forward slashes or the back slashes? I forget which one, but they were just totally bombing out extra characters in the trim process. And you said you kind of had a guess. Yeah.
So in the next thing that we're going to talk about, Shane, you were kind of doing a code review as much as Shane can write code and as much as I can review it. We were doing a code review, and I was looking at kind of his processes. I'm like, well, you should do this thing here that you've got in 4 steps. You can do it in 1. And he's like, can you? Because I tried. I'm like, but you're an idiot. Of course you can. And so we're trying to use the trim end method to trim the end off of some URLs, and it wouldn't work. And I'm like, oh, well, let's try this. And he's like, yep, I tried that. And I'm like, oh, what if we do that? Yep, tried that too. And it was scary how similar our thought processes were. But what we figured out, which is funny because last week when we were talking about the string one of the things that Shane had been playing with and wanted to talk about that we kind of talked ourselves out of was this idea of strings versus character arrays. And I'm like, nobody that's going to watch your video is going to want to deal with character arrays. It doesn't make any sense. But turns out, now fast forward to this week, the trim end and the trim start methods that weren't working correctly, the reason they weren't working correctly is because they take character arrays as inputs, and we were giving them strings, and everything was being screwed up by that. We figured out another way around it, so that was good. But it was just all those things we've never had to, and we're gonna have to kick Dave Aykroyd out of the chat room. Because not only is he calling us developers, he's now talking about how we're doing pair programming.
Yeah, well, the good news was I didn't know what pair programming was, so I don't know if that was an insult or,
It's an insult, absolutely, yeah.
Is it? So it's like when you say someone's pear-shaped versus apple-shaped, is that...
Yes. Yeah, I think he just called you fat, Shane. I think that's what it...
Darn it!
That's what happened there.
What I'd like to point out, though, is Dave, our resident PowerShell genius, didn't say, oh, show me the thing so I can figure out how to do it for you. He's not offering to help. So
no, he's just making fun of us. Yeah, he's not being helpful whatsoever. I've been doing a good job building anticipation, and in the chat room they're starting to complain about all the references to the next segment. So the next segment in the script that we were talking about and all that. Before we do that, Dave just put in the chat room, mock first, help after. One of my favorite TV shows ever is one called The West Wing. And there was a character, Josh Lyman, and his boss was Leo. And there's this one scene where some people, I can't remember, Flat Earth Society or somebody was doing something, and they're doing the Aaron Sorkin walk through the hall, walk and talk thing. And Josh is just making fun of them. Leo's like, do you want to help people or do you want to make fun of them? And he's like, I want to make fun of them. That's just like, it was the dumbest question you never heard. Like, if I have to choose between helping people and mocking them, I pick mocking them every single. One of my favorite scenes ever in The West Wing. Oh my God.
We should have like a West Wing viewing party. It's been so many years.
Damn it. Such a great show.
And we should invite somebody from the Trump administration to watch it with us. Maybe give them some ideas of kind of how to run the country.
Oh God. I've rewatched the first 2 seasons. I probably watched them 5 years ago. Oh, love that show. But anyway, here's the segment.
Are you sure?
Oh, we ran out of time. So next week we're gonna. So one of the things Shane and I've been doing a lot with Patterns and Practices PowerShell and Office 365. So it was just a matter of time before we kind of put all that together. And for the last week or so, Shane's been working on some PowerShell scripts to migrate files from file shares on-prem files up to Office 365. Using the Patterns and Practices PowerShell stuff. And so that's where we were talking about trimming the end off of URLs in case, when people put the destination URL, and if it included, the /form/all-items ASPX, that was the thing that we were trying to do with the trim piece with. And so do you want to, where's that video at? Where's that script at, Shane? What's the ETA on that?
The ETA, I hopefully by the end of the week. A couple of weeks ago, or I guess when Todd was out in Engage, right, someone kind of came up to him and said, hey, do you guys have a script that'll move a file share to SharePoint Online? And, Todd's like, yeah, probably, right? And so he came back, asked me about it, and I was like, well, I've got all the pieces, but I've never tried to put them together. So he sat down last Friday and said, all right, I'm gonna do this, right? It should be real easy. And well, it turns out moving one file, pretty easy.
Piece of cake.
Automating an entire file share and getting all of the metadata, so the created date, the modified date, and the owner of the file, and pushing all that to SharePoint Online, that gets pretty nasty.
Yeah. And so specifically the thing that we were talking about before, the thing that we were getting ready to make fun of Office 365 for was blocked file types. Yep. So I was, because like Shane said, putting one file up is no big deal, but once you've got it walking through a file share, it's got hundreds of files and folders and all that kind of stuff. You have to start looking for things like illegal characters, and I'm like, oh yeah, we got to get that list of file extensions that aren't supported in Office 365 anymore, and there isn't really one. Like, we were able to upload every file type that we could think of, and so we were getting all ready to make fun of Office 365, except there was no fun there anymore.
Yeah, when I uploaded the .com file, we decided that there wasn't any files it was going to stop us from uploading.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so it's a pretty fun little project. I've got, 3 or 4 days into it now, though. And so I think the idea is we're going to turn that into a video, good old YouTube. I love my YouTube. And so we're going to kind of walk people through, here's how you upload folders up into SharePoint Online and take all the metadata, talk about kind of how all that works. And then we're going to add a premium script, and then that one's going to just be an actual PowerShell function, 130 lines at the moment. It's going to have error checking. It's going to prompt you for the input, and then go and do recurse through a whole document library, take all the stuff, have default data if it doesn't do. So we're essentially recreating a migration tool, but because in PowerShell we're not devs, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, and fun, because this is. The person that I talked to over in the Netherlands, they might want to move some stuff, but they don't want to buy a whole tool or deal with all that. And so if we can get them most of the way with PowerShell, So
and it'll be interesting to see, right? Because the model is we're going to go, here's the core stuff, it's on the YouTube, it's free, have at it. But then this premium, with all the inputs and the error checking and the logging and all that, we're going to make that one of the Bold Zebra premium plays. So it'll be interesting to see how accepting the world is of paying, I don't know, a few bucks for a file instead of buying one for thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and let's be clear, we are not forging any territory that has not been forged before. There are some fantastic migration tools out there for pay. There are some out there that are for free. This is not, we did not stumble across anything novel by any stretch of the imagination. But part of it was, to see if there's a market for it. But part of it was just, Shane and I sitting around going, I wonder if we can do this with PowerShell. I bet we can. And just the fun of doing all that.
Yeah.
So look for that in the next week or so, maybe. All right, we got a couple of minutes left. I want to talk a little bit about
Jay.
So I and then Jay. We'll do I and then Jay. So none of you have the luxury of looking at our notes, but this is a thing. I can't remember if I got an email or something about this, but this is just one of those things we've probably talked about before, but it's just a good reminder. And it's a blog post from the TechNet site that talks about the ports and protocols required for SharePoint on-prem hybrid search. So this is outbound ports, inbound ports, outbound destinations, and all that kind of stuff. I had a customer who I can't remember who it was that asked for this, but in a very secure environment, and it wasn't enough to just say, oh yeah, we're good. We've made peace with the security aspect of being in the cloud. Their environment was locked down because of malware and things like that. So outbound egress stuff was contained, and they needed a document that outlined all the things so they could take it to their security folks and say, from our servers, lock down everything but this. And this was a document. So I'll put that in the show notes. But Microsoft's done a really good job. I remember when the hybrid search first came out, this list of protocols and destinations was really long, and they've done a good job of setting up, brokers on their end to kind of minimize that stuff. So that was good. I wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, one might argue they're getting kind of good at this whole cloud thing and understanding how people actually use it.
Yeah, it's scary. I remember back in the day, Shane, you and I mocked. We were not respectful, and it's a thing now. I kind of like it.
Well, the cloud. And speaking of things you like,
yeah,
your Model 3 is here. You're excited?
Last week was the big week. So back in March of 2016, nearly a year and a half ago, Elon Musk got out on stage and said, "Hey, we're gonna make this new Tesla, the Model 3, and if you will all give me $1,000, I will let you put your name in line for that." So 400,000 of us all loaned Elon Musk $1,000.
That's very kind of you.
Yes, because he needs my money, but that put me in line for a Model 3 Tesla. So the Teslas that are out there now, they had the original Roadster. They haven't made those for a few years, but like 5 years ago, they put out the Model S, which was the sedan, and then 2 years ago, the Model X. And the Model 3 is going to be the first, economy, like actual, not luxury, average-ish American car. And he's given guidance, and basically he said July of 2017 is when I'm going to start cranking them out. They had their thing July 1st. He's like, yep, next week, the first one's coming out. And it came out on Friday. And now this one was more hand-built, less robotic-built than they're hoping to get. But it's coming, so they're going to start delivering them. Now, myself living in Iowa and not being a current Tesla owner right now, I'm way down on the list. So employees get them first, current owners get them first, people who live near the Fremont area, which is where the factory is, they get them first. So I don't know when I'll get one, but it's starting to happen. We're getting there.
Yeah, and I guess there was something about the guy who had the rights to the first one had to give them back to Elon. I was like, what the hell? If I'm making
he didn't have to, he chose to. So Elon's birthday was sometime around here, and yeah. So, but it's all over. The 3 is not Tesla did a bad marketing job here, which is odd because they normally do a fairly good job with this. But the Model 3 is not like the next version. It's not better than the S or the X. It's the economy version. And so they've done a bunch of things that are going to make it cheaper. The starting price on a 3 is going to be $35,000, whereas the starting price on an S is $75,000. X is probably $85,000, something like that. But it's going to have a shorter range. It's going to be smaller. And the thing that I'm less sure of right now is the dash. The interior is very Spartan. So that's one of the ways they're saving money. And there is no dashboard per se. There's just a 15-inch display, like a landscape monitor or a portrait monitor in the middle. And I'm not sure if I like that. So we'll see. Once they start coming out, get to see more pictures. We'll see if I like that.
Yeah, it's well, and the whole reason they ended up with this 3 name, which is part of the chaos for you here, is the what Ford owned E, right? He wanted to have an S, an X, and an E,
and Y,
and
because
Y.
the next one's
yeah,
Model Y. Yep.
right now, you arrange those letters any way you want to make a word if you're good at Scrabble, and Ford's like, nah, we don't want to play along, so 3 is a backwards E, I guess.
Yeah, and he's since admitted that he screwed that up. I mean, he has since admitted that was hubris on his part. He shouldn't have done that. But yeah, so Dave, sexy cars. That's exactly what he was going for. But yeah, so they've done a good job. Tesla has realized that they kind of gave a bad message on that, and so they've kind of been doing a bunch of stuff to help people understand that Model S's and Model X's are still good cars, better cars actually. And one of the things that they've done is they put a lot of attention in their CPO site, certified pre-owned stuff. Mm-hmm. So you can go out and look at previously owned Teslas. It's cool times. I'm very excited about it. I like the Teslas because of the all electric thing. I like them because the technology is just lots to love there.
Yeah, the technology. I mean, the first time you drive one, you're like, wait, this is just a big computer, and I can cruise the internet. I can, you're like, this is different. This is cool.
It's a computer with wheels, and the performance. So I test drove a P85D, which for those of you that haven't followed all the nomenclature of Teslas, that is the performance version of a Model S. It's got essentially all-wheel drive, dual motors, front and back, and it's got the 85 kilowatt battery in it. And when I took it for the test drive, the Tesla, I'm not a sales guy, I don't even know what his title is, but we were taking an entrance ramp to an interstate, and he's like, I encourage you to floor it. And Teslas have just legendary acceleration, and I'm like, man, are you sure? He's like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. And so I did, because I'm dumb, and I floored that car, and it's the weirdest sensation. So 20 years ago, a friend of mine had a Viper, a 94 Dodge Viper. That thing has like 650 horsepower, and I drove that car for like a week. Long story, that car had power. And so I thought I kind of had this figured out. I kind of knew what I was expecting. I floored that Tesla, and honest to God, I thought I was going to black out. Like I felt my vision coming in. Like for moments, I was concerned about my ability to keep my hands on the steering wheel and not just drive off into the ditch and burst into flames. The acceleration is just amazing on those things. And my wife was with us. She was in the back seat. And so the other thing about it is when you floor it, number one, there's no lag because there's no transmission to shift down. There's no getting into the RPM zone. It's all electric motors. It just goes. And number two, there's no sound. Like there's no engine revving. It's just all of a sudden, there you go. And so, my wife was in the back seat. She had no idea. She screamed. She thought we were all going to die. On the way back, my wife's driving. I know what's going to happen, right? We're going to get on this entrance ramp. He's going to tell her to floor it. Without hesitation, she's going to floor it. So I'm sitting in the back seat. I've got my body plastered against the seat. I'm ready for this. I know exactly what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my stomach just drops like I'm on a roller coaster. I feel like I'm going to throw up. And I mean, the acceleration is just insane with these things. So one of Shane and I's friends, Andrew Connell, has one. I don't remember if he's got I don't think he's got a performance. I think he's just got an S70. So I was asking him, I'm like, man, do you ever get used to that? He's like, oh, absolutely. Because once you get one of those cars, that's how you drive it every single day. He's like, that is just how you drive those cars. So I'm pretty excited about it.
No, it's electric cars. Right? The easiest way for people to compare, if you are like you don't have a point of reference, you might if you've driven golf carts, right? The difference between a gas-powered golf cart and an electric golf cart. It's the same thing, just at a much different scale.
Oh my, yeah. It's and there's out on the internet there are a billion videos of this 4-door sedan Tesla S beating Lamborghinis off the line, Ferraris, and just eats them for lunch on takeoff. Now, those cars catch up, and, if you're racing 2 miles, the Lamborghini's going to win. but the power and the acceleration is just unbelievable.
All right, now that we've gotten you completely oogling and ogling over Teslas again, probably time to.
Did you want to talk about L, or do you want to save that for next week?
We'll save that first when we got some time.
All right. Well, everybody, it's good to be back. It seems like it's been forever since you and I have done a full show together and all that. So we'll go to promotion here. The first thing is, after all this talk about PowerShell, Shane and I, we're teaching a PowerShell class. Oh. And so you can go to boldzebras.com/PowerShell training and sign up for that. So we're going to use the same format that we used a couple of months ago. We've got 2 sessions, kind of a, session 1, session 2. They are going to be, I'm looking at the date now, I've forgotten what the dates are.
August.
Are the dates even on the page?
Nope, they're on the, click the buy button.
August 3rd.
There you go.
Yep. August 3rd. So we get 2 classes, kind of an intro and kind of a next step thing, $99 a class. If you buy them both, let us know. We might cut you a deal. We'll see. But that is, so go to boldzebras.com/PowerShell training if you'd like to take an online training class from Shane and I. Next, tomorrow morning, for the St. Louis SharePoint user group, I'm doing a talk on Shane's favorite topic ever, OneDrive. So I'm doing an hour on OneDrive, what it is, what it can be, how to control it, how many OneDrives can you have, all of that.
I can't wait to hear about how you put all those poor people to sleep with your love of OneDrive.
And then next, September 6th through the 9th, I'm going to be in Stockholm, Sweden for Joran Houston's SharePoint Exchange Forum, SEF. This year on a boat, we're starting in Stockholm. We're going to Tallinn, Estonia, and coming back. And I'm going to be talking about PowerShell and Azure and Office 365 and all those things. You can go to seforum.se and sign up for that. Then a couple of weeks after that, Microsoft Ignite, September 25th through the 29th. That's in Orlando, and you're not going to want to miss that. I'm not sure how much I can say, but I can tell you I will be there, and you will not want to miss it. So that is Microsoft Ignite, September 25th through the 29th. You're going to want to see me there. And then finally in November 8th and 9th, I will be back in Slovenia. I've been invited back there for their conference there. And that's called the Thrive Conference this year. It was SharePoint Days Slovenia last year. But it's at thriveconf.com. So if you're in eastern part of Europe there, sign up for that. Great little smaller conference, a little boutique thing, a couple of days, and all about SharePoint and Office 365 and all of those things. Had a blast last year. If you've never been to Slovenia, go there. Beautiful country, great people. I got lost once. It wasn't even scary. So that will be November 8th and 9th.
Nothing like when I got lost in Paris.
Nothing like that. Much more pleasurable than that time you got lost in Paris.
Oh.
Good times. So everybody, again, thank you. We will see you next week. And in the chat room, we've got a topic suggestions channel. If you've got stuff that you'd like to hear us maybe talk about, throw that in there. Next week, we'll be hitting the things that they talked about at Inspire. And we got a couple of things, the new Microsoft 365 thing they announced, the communication sites that came out a couple weeks ago, some other things that we'll hit next week. So thanks, everybody. Chat room, I'll stick around for a bit. Shane's got to go get some Chick-fil-A, so he's going to take off. But see you next week.
Toodles.